June 1942, in the freezing bogs of Alaska's Aleutian Islands, American sailors discovered something that would change the entire Pacific War, a nearly intact Japanese Zero fighter, the most feared aircraft in the sky. What happened next turned the tide of history. This is the incredible true story that most Americans have never heard. If you value accurate military history, subscribe to Narrated Stories right now. We uncover these hidden chapters every week. On June 4th, 1942, the same day as the Battle of Midway, a young Japanese pilot named Petty Officer Tadayoshi Koga took off from the carrier Ryujo. His mission: strike American positions at Dutch Harbor, Alaska. Flying the legendary Mitsubishi A6M2 Zero fighter, Koga was piloting one of the most advanced aircraft in the world. The Zero had dominated Pacific skies for 6 months. American pilots called encounters with it a death sentence. It could outmaneuver any Allied fighter, climb faster, and turn tighter than anything the United States had in the air. But during the Dutch Harbor raid, something went wrong. Anti-aircraft fire struck Koga's Zero. The damage appeared minor, a hit to the fuel line. Japanese doctrine was clear: return to the carrier if possible. But Koga faced a critical problem. His fuel was hemorrhaging. He couldn't make it back to the Ryujo. Standard procedure called for ditching in the ocean near a Japanese submarine for rescue. Instead, Koga made a fateful decision. He spotted Akutan Island below, uninhabited, covered in tall grass. It looked like an emergency landing strip. He descended. What Koga couldn't see from the air was that the grass concealed a swampy bog. His Zero hit the marsh at over 90 miles per hour. The landing gear collapsed instantly. The impact broke Koga's neck, killing him instantly. His aircraft flipped upside down, nose first, into the mud. For 3 weeks, the Zero sat there, hidden, forgotten. The Japanese never reported it missing. American forces had no idea it existed. But on June 23, 1942, a U.S. Navy patrol aircraft spotted something unusual in the marsh: the reflection of sunlight off metal. A recovery team landed and couldn't believe their eyes. This wasn't wreckage. This was an intact Zero fighter. The most secretive, most feared weapon in Japan's arsenal. The canopy was intact, the instruments readable, even the ammunition belts were loaded. Lieutenant William Tease, the officer who found it, immediately recognized what this meant. He sent an urgent message: intact Zero located, immediate recovery essential. 3,000 miles away at Pearl Harbor, naval intelligence officers read that message and understood they had just been handed the key to winning the Pacific War. Share your thoughts below. Did you know about this discovery? And hit that like button to help us preserve these incredible stories. Recovering the Zero from Akutan Island became one of the most challenging salvage operations of the war. The aircraft sat nose down in a remote bog, accessible only by seaplane. The nearest naval facility was Dutch Harbor, over 30 miles across treacherous waters. Lieutenant Tyes assembled a recovery team from the cruiser USS Indianapolis. These weren't aircraft specialists. They were sailors with wrenches, rope, and determination. Their orders were clear: get that Zero to Dutch Harbor intact. No damage, no shortcuts. The first attempt failed. The team tried to flip the aircraft right side up using rope and sheer manpower. The Zero weighed nearly 4,000 pounds empty. The bog provided no stable footing. After 6 hours of struggling, they admitted defeat and radioed for help. The second attempt brought more men and better equipment. They built wooden planks across the marsh to create stable platforms. Using block and tackle systems, they slowly lifted the nose from the mud. The aircraft's structure held, a testament to Japanese engineering. But as they worked, a new problem emerged: time. Alaskan weather in June meant 20 hours of daylight, but also frequent storms. Wind gusts could reach 50 miles per hour with almost no warning. One storm could shred the Zero's fabric-covered control surfaces or tear the wings from the fuselage. They needed to move faster. The third attempt succeeded. Using improvised sleds made from fuel drums and planking, the team dragged the Zero across the bog to firmer ground. From there, they disassembled it carefully. Wings separated from fuselage, tail section removed, engine detached. Every component was photographed, labeled, and packed. A PBY Catalina flying boat ferried the components to Dutch Harbor. From there, the cargo ship SS Casco carried everything to Naval Air Station North Island in San Diego. The shipment arrived in mid-July. Crated components marked Priority War Material, handled with extreme care. At North Island, a specialized team began reconstruction. These weren't just mechanics, they were aircraft engineers, some who had studied captured German aircraft in World War I. They approached the Zero like surgeons performing a transplant. Every bolt had to go in the correct location. Every control cable had to be tensioned precisely. The challenge was enormous. They had no manual, no blueprints, no specifications. Everything was in Japanese. Instruments read right to left. The throttle worked backward from American aircraft. Fuel mixtures were different. Even the propeller pitch control rotated opposite to American conventions. But by September 1942, just over 3 months after its discovery, the Zero was ready. Fully restored, fully functional, ready to reveal its secrets to American test pilots. The aircraft that had terrorized the Pacific was about to betray every weakness. If you're still watching, you understand why this matters. Don't miss the next revelation. Subscribe to Narrated Stories now. On September 20th, 1942, Lieutenant Commander Eddie Sanders climbed into the captured Zero's cockpit at Naval Air Station San Diego. Sanders was one of America's most experienced test pilots. He had flown everything from biplanes to the newest fighters. But nothing prepared him for what he was about to discover. The test protocol was systematic. First flight, basic handling characteristics. Second flight, maximum performance envelope. Third through 24th flights, combat maneuvers against American fighters, the F-4F Wildcat, P-38 Lightning, and the new F-4U Corsair. What Sanders discovered would save thousands of American lives. The Zero's strengths were immediately obvious. It could turn inside any American fighter. Its climb rate was exceptional. It could reach 20,000 feet in under 8 minutes. The cockpit visibility was superb. At low speeds, it handled beautifully. Japanese pilots had good reason for confidence. But then Sanders tested the aircraft at combat speeds, over 200 knots. That's when the Zero's fatal flaws appeared. First discovery, the ailerons, the wing flaps that control roll, froze solid above 200 knots. The Zero couldn't roll quickly at high speed. An American pilot diving past 200 knots could outroll the Zero and escape. The Japanese fighter simply couldn't follow. Second discovery, the Zero rolled more easily to the left than to the right. This asymmetry meant American pilots could predict which direction a Zero would turn in a dogfight. That split-second advantage could mean the difference between life and death. Third discovery, the most important, the Zero's engine used a float-type carburetor. Under negative G-forces, such as pushing the nose down into a steep dive, the carburetor would starve of fuel. The engine would cut out completely. An American pilot being chased by a Zero could simply push the stick forward into a steep dive. The Zero's engine would quit. The American would escape. American fighters, by contrast, used fuel injection systems. They could sustain negative Gs without engine failure. This single technical difference created a massive tactical advantage. Sanders compiled his findings into a classified report. The conclusions were stunning. The Zero's weaknesses can be exploited systematically. Recommended tactics: maintain high speed, use boom and zoom attacks, avoid sustained turning engagements, exploit the dive advantage. Within weeks, these tactics were distributed to every fighter squadron in the Pacific. Marine Corps Ace Captain Kenneth Walsh later said, That captured Zero saved my life at least 3 times. When a Zero got on my tail, I knew exactly what to do. Full throttle, steep dive, and watch him disappear. The intelligence also reached aircraft designers. Grumman engineers used the data to develop the F-6F Hellcat, a fighter specifically designed to exploit every Zero weakness. The Hellcat would achieve a 13-to-1 kill ratio against the Zero. 13 Japanese aircraft destroyed for every Hellcat lost, 1 captured aircraft, 1 test pilot, thousands of American lives saved. This is the power of intelligence warfare. Type "incredible" in the comments if you're learning something new today, and give us a thumbs up. The impact of the captured Zero extended far beyond tactical advice to pilots. It fundamentally changed America's strategic approach to the Pacific Air War. Before the Akutan Zero, American intelligence officers believed the Zero was flown by elite, superhuman pilots. The aircraft's performance seemed impossible. It violated Western engineering assumptions about weight, power, and aerodynamics. Some analysts speculated that Japanese pilots underwent special training that enhanced their reflexes and endurance. The captured Zero shattered these myths. Test data proved the aircraft's performance came from extreme design choices: lightweight construction, minimal armor protection, and no self-sealing fuel tanks. The Zero achieved its remarkable maneuverability by sacrificing pilot protection. This revelation changed everything. American pilots learned they were facing a capable but vulnerable opponent. The Zero would burn if hit by incendiary ammunition. Its lightweight structure couldn't withstand sustained gunfire. A short burst from .650 caliber machine guns would tear it apart. American aircraft designers took the opposite approach. The F-6F Hellcat, introduced in 1943, weighed nearly twice as much as the Zero. It carried heavy armor plating behind the pilot. Its fuel tanks were self-sealing. Bullet holes would automatically seal themselves, preventing fires. It couldn't turn as tightly as the Zero, but it didn't need to. It was faster, could dive away from trouble, and could absorb punishment that would destroy a Zero. Production numbers tell the story. The United States built over 12,000 Hellcats during the war. The Hellcat became the Navy's primary fighter, participating in nearly every major Pacific campaign from late 1943 onward. Its combat record was devastating: over 5,000 enemy aircraft destroyed, with minimal American losses. The captured Zero's intelligence value extended to training. The aircraft was flown in mock combat exercises against new American pilots. Pilots transitioning to the Pacific theater could practice fighting a real Zero before encountering one in combat. They learned to recognize its silhouette, understand its turning radius, and exploit its weaknesses instinctively. Even the aircraft's construction techniques provided valuable intelligence. Engineers discovered that Japanese metallurgy was less advanced than American processes. The Zero's aluminum alloys were slightly inferior. Its welding techniques were different. This information helped intelligence analysts assess Japan's industrial capacity and predict production bottlenecks. By 1943, the Zero was no longer the terror of Pacific skies. American pilots actively sought combat with Zeros, confident in their tactical advantages. One Marine pilot remarked, "Early in the war, seeing a Zero meant running for your life. By 1943, seeing a Zero meant an easy kill." The strategic shift was profound. In 1942, Japan controlled the Pacific skies. By late 1943, American fighters dominated. The Akutan Zero didn't single-handedly win the air war, but it accelerated the victory by months, perhaps years. Keep watching. The final chapter reveals the lasting legacy of this incredible discovery. And hit subscribe one more time so you never miss these hidden history episodes. The Akutan Zero's contribution to Allied victory remained classified for decades after World War II ended. Only in the 1970s did the full story begin to emerge, as military archives were declassified and veterans started sharing their experiences. Petty Officer Tadayoshi Koga, the young pilot who crashed on Akutan Island, never knew his aircraft would betray his nation's secrets. His body was recovered by Japanese forces in August 1942, over a month after the crash. He was 20 years old. He never knew American sailors had found his Zero, studied it, and used it to defeat his comrades. The captured Zero itself had a fascinating post-war journey. After completing its test program in late 1942, the aircraft was transferred to multiple naval facilities for continued study. In 1945, it was sent to the Naval Air Technical Training Center in Chicago for engineering analysis. It survived the war, but not the peace. In February 1945, during a routine transfer between facilities, a ground crew member made a critical error. While moving the Zero using a tow vehicle, he misjudged a turn. The tow bar slipped, and the Zero's wing struck a support pillar. The damage was severe. The main wing spar cracked completely. Faced with expensive repairs to an aircraft that had already provided its intelligence value, the Navy made a practical decision: scrap it. The Akutan Zero was cut apart, its components sold for scrap aluminum. The most strategically valuable aircraft in American possession was melted down for recycling. Today, only photographs remain. But the lessons learned from that Zero transformed more than just World War II tactics. They established principles of intelligence gathering and analysis that continue today. The careful, methodical study of enemy equipment, the integration of technical intelligence with operational tactics, the rapid distribution of actionable information to frontline forces. These became standard procedures in modern military intelligence. Several veterans of the Pacific War later reflected on the Akutan Zero's impact. Captain Kenneth Walsh, who became a Marine Corps ace with 21 confirmed kills, said in a 1980s interview, "I owe my life to whoever found that Zero. Every time I dove away from a Zero and heard his engine cut out, I thanked them." Fighter Ace Commander William Leonard, who flew F-6F Hellcats off carriers in 1944, called the captured Zero a treasure that unlocked secrets at the most critical time in the Pacific War. Perhaps the most poignant reflection came from a Japanese pilot who survived the war. In the 1990s, he learned about the Akutan Zero's capture. His comment, "We knew Americans were resourceful, but we never imagined they would turn one of our own aircraft against us so effectively. That is the difference between winning and losing a war." The story of the Akutan Zero reminds us that wars are won not just by courage and firepower, but by intelligence, analysis, and the ability to learn from your enemy. A single crashed aircraft, studied carefully by dedicated Americans, changed the course of history. For the full story of this operation and more untold tales from World War II, subscribe to Narrated Stories. Click that subscribe button now. We release new historical documentaries every week. And don't miss our next episode, where we reveal another forgotten chapter from the greatest conflict in human history. This is how the greatest generation won the Pacific War, not just with bravery, but with intelligence.